Hey, I'm going to get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, what I do is I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to understand the path to enlightenment. We're actually restarting this program on the 9th of August from the very beginning. This program is something that people can attend either here in Chiang Mai or online. It's available to you at no cost, where you can gradually learn the teachings that it takes to be able to make your way to enlightenment. On Wednesdays, what I do is I do meditation with you guys, and then I teach a little bit, and then really just open up to whatever questions you guys have. You guys are welcome to ask any and all questions when we get to that point. Today is actually a really special day. They're actually celebrating a holiday here in Thailand that during the lifetime of the Buddha, this was the day that he actually delivered his very first teaching. So he taught what's called the Four Noble Truths. In these four simple statements, he explained to you what the problem is in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. Because everything that the Buddha taught is about how to train your mind to get to the point where you're experiencing enlightenment. What enlightenment is, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind by training of the mind. The Buddha never taught any kind of beliefs. He didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. If you've been exposed to those kinds of things as part of the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't his actual teachings. Those are misunderstandings of his teachings. Instead, he taught you to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, training your mind, becoming a better and better individual. And as you train your mind, you're uprooting certain pollutions that are in the mind. And as you do this, applying the tools and the techniques that the Buddha taught, you'll notice that your mind has focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind will be performing optimally. When you have those pollutions that are in your mind, you'll lack concentration, focus, and clarity. So training your mind is to do this inner work, becoming a better and better individual. You'll notice by the time you get to enlightenment that you don't even experience these discontent feelings, but you'll also have harmonious relationships, both personally and professionally. You'll notice that your relationships are really blossoming, because in the unenlightened state, you have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility towards others. And when you're putting that out in your relationships, it's all going to be coming back to you. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have that any longer. You've trained your mind beyond that. And now you can be loving and kind and warm and gentle with others. Oftentimes, these feelings of anger, sadness, and others, people think that these are actually caused by the outside world. So you might actually feel justified in your hostility or bitterness when you're interacting with people. But it's not the outside world that's causing you to be angry and frustrated. What the Buddha discovered is what's going on inside your own mind. And this is why you can eliminate it, because the mind itself is actually what's producing these feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even experience a bad mood anymore. That it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. So I'm going to start off today with guiding you in a loving kindness meditation session. This is a meditation that actually helps you to rewire your mind to eliminate anger, hatred, and hostility. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have that in your mind anymore. So there's a meditation that helps you to be able to do that. But then you also need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions. You can't meditate your way to enlightenment. You're going to need meditation, but you're going to need other teachings as well so that you can go out into the world and interact in a way that's wise. But this meditation is an important part of your practice. So we're going to start our class with the loving kindness meditation. Then I'll share a little bit of teachings with you guys. And then I'm really going to just open up to whatever questions you guys have. The way that we do the loving kindness meditation is we start with some chanting. If you would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, the students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. It was a learning tool, it was a learning device. Nowadays, someone might think of this as a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony, or some kind of mystical or magical thing, or a prayer. But that's not what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught it as a learning tool, as a learning device. Where today we read books, we look at YouTube videos, we listen to podcasts. They didn't have those kinds of things 2,500 years ago. So instead, the Buddha used chanting as a way to help his students to commit his teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, they would recite those teachings. Today, we use this as a way to ease the mind into meditation meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you decide to chant along, you'll see that it helps the mind to be more attentive and alert. You can have awareness of your mind, awareness of your breath as you're easing into the meditation. The chants are on a laminated sheet over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and get one if you like. Those of you guys that are online, you'll actually find these on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books. And then if you go about 2/3 of the way down the page, you'll see the daily chanting sheet there. If you end up getting one of these chanting sheets, you're going to see the English translations as well. And there's a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha in these chants that we chant. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these. Yeah, you're welcome to help yourself. Feel free to get a chanting sheet. I don't think the Buddha even created these chants. I'll let you guys get one. It looks like a bunch of you guys would like to get them. Go ahead. Feel free to help yourself. So I don't think the Buddha even created these chants, because if you look at the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? Because that would be ego or arrogance if somebody did that. So if you learned from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you would probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha wouldn't have taught his students to chant something to him. But if you learn from a teacher and they helped you to get to that point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful, and they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd have a lot of appreciation and respect for that person too. Once we're in the meditation, you're going to hear me guiding you, where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. I'm going to be sharing breathing mindfulness meditation. This is kind of a way to prepare your mind for the loving kindness meditation. You'll see that we're going to be focused on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, we're going to cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. There'll be a brief period of time where we're doing breathing mindfulness meditation, but then we're going to go into the loving kindness meditation. You're going to hear me saying these phrases, things like, may I be peaceful, may I be safe, may I be well, may I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. When you hear these phrases, you would like to repeat them on your own within your mind on the out breath. What you're doing here is you're rewiring your mind to be loving and kind. You're not going to be sending loving kindness to anybody. You're not going to be trying to change other people. You're not invoking some special power to come and change people, because you're going to hear us say things like, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness, and things like this. So you're not invoking some special power. You're not trying to change mom and dad. What you're doing is you're changing your mind, so that you can be more loving and kind, so that when you're around mom and dad, your intention, speech, and actions can be more loving and kind. That's the way you're going to improve your relationships. Oftentimes people think the way to improve a relationship is they try to change the other person. You'll never get to peace and joy trying to change other people. There's 8 billion people in this world. You can't change 8 billion people, but you can change your own mind. So what this meditation is doing is helping you to essentially like fill up a gas tank, where you're filling up your mind with loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And now you go out into the world through your intention, speech, and actions. And that's where you practice being loving and kind, through your intention, speech, and actions. And that's what's going to transform your relationships. Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile to mom and dad, it's all just going to keep coming back to you. That's the results of that. That's the cause and effect of you being bitter and harsh and hostile to people. They're going to be bitter and harsh and hostile to you too. So you would like to transform that. And this meditation is going to help you with that. And then we're going to go back to the breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to come out of the meditation with chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, sharing some teachings with you guys. I'm going to give you guys kind of like a summarized version of the original teachings of the Buddha on the Four Noble Truths. So you can understand the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. You can have a real breakthrough to being able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because this is very empowering, because then you can actually solve it. As long as you think that it's other people that are causing the feelings that you're experiencing, you'll just continue to be angry and frustrated your whole life. You'll never actually be able to solve it. But the Buddha gives you the solution of how to actually fix this. So we'll talk about that after meditation. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'll give you guys a little bit of guidance on this just to help you get started. And then you can learn these other positions in different retreats and courses that we share. I will help you to be able to understand what these positions are. The seated position is kind of like the go-to position. It's a primary position that a lot of people use, but there are other positions because your body can't be in the same position permanently. There's not just one fixed way to actually sit during meditation. We live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing, and different people are going to find different things to be comfortable. So what I'm going to share with you are suggestions or recommendations, and you can use what it is that I'm sharing with you, or you can use something that you come up with on your own. What's important is that the body's comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but in the middle where it's comfortable. So if it's something that I share that helps you, wonderful. Or if you come up with something on your own, use that. You're not training the body here. What you're doing is you're training the mind. So you could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you would like to do that just lightly. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. It's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Because what meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Having the sternum up and the shoulders back will help you to keep your mind attentive and alert. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to get started with the chanting. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance to help you. Samma sammuto mahakawa Putang mahakawanang apiwateyami Savakato mahakawata tammo Namang namasami Supatipano mahakawato Sawakasangko Sanghang namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakewa arahang sammasammuto vicacaranang sammuno sakatoro kawitu anutero purisa dhamma sati satatawa manusarang poto bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these phrases in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, neighbors, and coworkers all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะคะวาพุทธังมหาคะวันนังอภิวาเทมิ สวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตวามนุสรังปุตโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to everyone. Nice to see everyone here. Good morning to everyone joining online as well. Like I mentioned, today is an important day here in Thailand because this is the day that the Buddha gave his very first talk when he was teaching. This was his very first day of actually teaching, where he shared what's called the Four Noble Truths. And in 4 simple statements, he was able to explain what is the problem that you discover in the mind, what is the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And during his lifetime, he was asked by his students, what would be the best way to actually respect you? And when he was asked this question, he said, well, the best way to respect me is to actually practice the teachings. If you learn and practice the teachings that I'm sharing, that's the best way to respect me. So I think today the very fitting thing to do is on a day where it's an important holiday here in Thailand, is the best thing to do is actually share his teachings. Because if I share with you what he actually taught on this important topic, you can actually have a real breakthrough. Having a breakthrough is to be able to understand once and for all what's causing your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. You can understand that through the teachings of the Buddha in a way that you can independently verify. Right now, if you think that it's other people that are causing these feelings, or if you think it's the outside world, this is just the mind's lack of wisdom that you have right now. And because of that lack of wisdom, what you might actually be doing in your life is you might be pushing people away. You might be pushing away your friends or family, thinking that they're the ones who are causing you to be angry or frustrated. Or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, and it's just damaging your relationships. Or you might be putting your expectations on people and trying to pressure them or control them to do things your way. And as long as you're doing this, you'll never get to peace. You'll never get to harmony in your relationships, because it's not these people that are actually causing these feelings. If it was these people around you that was causing the feelings, feelings, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward because you found your problem and you solved it by pushing them out of your life. But you can see when you push people away, when you're bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or you put your expectations on people, it's not solving your problem. You still get angry, you still get frustrated or irritated or annoyed. So I'm going to share with you the Four Noble Truths in a summarized version in a way that you could actually understand it today. And then I'm going to pause and I'm going to open up for questions. And when I do, you're welcome to ask any and all questions. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask questions. Here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. All you need to do is get a microphone. We also have some up here in the front. Is just press the button. There's a gray button. You'll see the lights come on. If you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't actually be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question or someone around you might have a question and you can just share your microphone with them. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that and answer your question. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions you like that way. The first thing to understand as you approach the teachings of the Buddha is to never believe any of his teachings. There is no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. He never taught anybody to believe him. You're not believing his teachings because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody either convinced you to believe it or you convinced yourself to believe it. In order to get to enlightenment, you need to be able to cultivate wisdom. And the way you cultivate wisdom is you don't believe anything, and then you learn, investigate, and examine teachings. That's what you can do here today, is you can start intellectually understanding what the Buddha taught. Then you can move this into reflection, where you reflect on these teachings, comparing it to your day-to-day experiences through your own direct experience. Because if the teachings are true, you should be able to independently verify that what's being taught to you is what you experience and the reasons why. So you can reflect to verify whether it's true or false. Then you can practice the teachings that are being shared with you in order to be able to train your mind and make decisions through those teachings. And that's where you actually cultivate the wisdom, because you actually see that the teachings are working to improve the condition of your mind and your life. So you don't believe anything that I share. Don't believe anything that anybody else shares. Don't believe anything that I write in books. Don't believe anything that anybody else writes in books. Instead, you need to learn, reflect, and practice. And that's what's going to lead to your wisdom, the cultivation of the mind, and getting to the point where your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. That's what the enlightened mental state is, where you no longer experience any discontent feelings. That it's physically impossible for you to experience things like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So the first of the Four Noble Truths is that explaining the problem to you. The first noble truth is explaining that everyone in the unenlightened state will experience discontentedness. What discontentedness is conditioned feelings. What a conditioned feeling is that based on some condition, you will experience either a pleasant feeling, a painful feeling, or a feeling that is neither painful nor pleasant. So for example, if you look outside and you see it's sunny and you get really happy and excited about that, that's a conditioned feeling. It's based on the condition that the sun is present and now you will be happy. But the problem with the conditioned feeling is that it's temporary, that it arises, it changes, and it fades away. Because if you base your happiness on the sun, that means when it rains, you're going to be angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that's conditional happiness. Based on the condition that your bank account balance is here, you will be happy. But then when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated or annoyed because that condition is not permanent. So if you base your feelings on this bank account being at this level, then that means you're ensuring that you're not going to be happy permanently because you're basing your feelings on an impermanent condition. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness and permanent joy, because in the unenlightened state, it bases its feelings on some condition, some outward experience. So this is the problem that the unenlightened mind experiences. It experiences these conditioned pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, or euphoria, and they're only temporary, so they're displeasing. Or you experience painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, These are very painful for you to experience, and it's based on some condition. And then there's what's called neither painful nor pleasant feelings. This is like shyness. It's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. Or displeasure or uncomfortableness. It's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. So this is the problem that each unenlightened being is experiencing. Their mind's going up and down and up and down and up and down. It's only a matter of time before you become angry or irritated or frustrated about something. That's what an unenlightened being is experiencing. When your mind is shaken up and unsteady and unstable like that, you can't make wise decisions. And now when you're making unwise decisions, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you in your day-to-day life. So this is the problem. The cause of this problem is explained in the second noble truth. The second noble truth explains that the discontentedness is caused by something called craving, desire, attachment, where the mind is craving for things to be permanent, when in reality, everything in the world around you is impermanent. I'm going to say this a few times, and I'm going to give you some examples to understand this, and you can relate it to your life so you can independently verify it so that you're not believing me. The discontent feelings, whether they're conditioned pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant, are being caused by craving, desire, attachment. What that is the mind's longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst that the mind longs and yearns and chases after the objects of its affection. And if it gets what it wants and what it expects, it experiences pleasant feelings. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it experiences painful feelings. The mind in the unenlightened state craves for things to be permanent, but yet everything in the world around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. So here's some examples to help you see this, and you can relate it to your life. Think about getting together with maybe a boyfriend or girlfriend. If you've had a boyfriend or girlfriend, maybe when you guys first got together, you were very happy and very excited about that. This new person comes into your life. They're showing you attention. They're calling you and checking in on you. Maybe they're sending you text messages. They're inviting you out to the movies, to dinner. Maybe you're going to the park. You're having nice walks together. You're having great conversations. Maybe you're even having intimate contact, right? So this is at the beginning of the relationship, and you might experience so much pleasure when you're experiencing that. But then over time, the relationship deteriorated, and you got to a point where you guys broke up. And when you broke up, you might have been angry or frustrated or sad. You might have been lonely or bored or missing this person. You might think it was your love that was causing that, or your care. It wasn't your love that was causing that. It wasn't your care. This was the mind craving permanence. That the mind in the unenlightened state, when it's holding on and it's craving something, as long as it's getting what it wants and what it expects, it'll experience pleasure. But when it's not getting what it wants, it'll experience painful feelings. So this breakup, all that was impermanence. All that was change. Things changed in your life. But with your mind holding on and craving permanence, you can only be happy if you get what you want. You can see the same thing if you had someone close to you that has died, like mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, brothers or sisters. Maybe you were grieving or sorrowful during that period of time. You didn't do anything wrong. You're not a bad person. It's just what the unenlightened mind does, is it craves permanence. You can only be happy when you get what you want. When mom and dad, grandma, grandpa are alive, the mind's getting what it wants, so you're happy. But when you experience this impermanence, the mind doesn't like that. That's where the mind experiences the grief or the sorrow or the despair. So the only thing that's happening here is change. But the mind is craving permanence, and it lives in this impermanent world where things are constantly changing. So you can look at your life and you can see that when things were changing in your life, these were the most difficult situations for you. The most difficult times for you whenever things have been changing. If you're changing jobs, if you're changing living locations, if your relationships are changing, this is the times that you've really struggled the most in life because your mind's craving permanence. So you can see this through some of the examples that I just mentioned, but sometimes people have a hard time to see it because it's relationships. But let me share with you a situation that's not a relationship, and maybe you can see it more clearly there. Think if you had a brand new car and you saved up for this car for an extended period of time, maybe multiple years, and you were so happy to buy this brand new car. And you went down to the dealership and you purchased the car and you drove off the lot and you're driving your car down the road and people are like, wow, look at her. She's so successful. Wow, look at him. He's so successful. And you're so proud driving your car. And you park it at a store and you go inside. And when you come out, there's a big scratch across your car. Oh my gosh, you could be crushed. You could be so angry and frustrated. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing it is the mind is craving permanence. That the mind's craving for this car to look permanently beautiful when it's just not possible. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise here, because obviously when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is going to deteriorate because it's an impermanent object. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's only a matter of time. So if our mind is craving permanence, wanting this car to be permanently beautiful, when we see that it's got a scratch, you'll cause your mind to be angry or frustrated because the mind's not getting what it wants. So one of the ways to say this is that the mind craves permanence. Another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. It doesn't like when things are changing. That's the way the mind works in the unenlightened state, is it's holding on and craving permanence. All the way back to when we were children. I'll give you some more examples. Think about when we went to our mom and dad. We were little kids. And we said, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? They said, sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. And we were like, thank you so much, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. You got that chocolate and ice cream. You're so happy, so excited because the mind's getting what it wants and what it expects. And then the second day comes around. We're like, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? They said, sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. Thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're so great, right? And then the third day comes along and we say, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? No. You're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever, right? The mind wasn't getting what it wanted, what it expected. It was longing, yearning for that ice cream. And it could only be happy if it got what it wanted and what it expected. So you can look at your own life and you can verify what I'm sharing with you is true. Because remember, I shared with you, you should never believe anything. So take a moment here and reflect on what I'm sharing with you. I just shared with you that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, that it's the craving, the desire, the longing, the yearning, and you can only be happy if you get what you want. So take a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated. Think about that. It might have been this morning or yesterday or last week. At that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else because that's what the mind typically does. It looks for someone else to blame because it can't be you that's causing these feelings. The mind's ego is in there telling you that it's other people that's causing this. And that's why you push people away. You're bitter, harsh, and hostile. You put expectations on people. But instead, look at it with these fresh eyes. What was that you wanted, that you expected, that you were longing, yearning for? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because the mind didn't get what it wanted or expected, it experienced anger and frustration. If you can see this, you can have a real breakthrough. And you'll be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And this is very empowering because once you realize that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, then you realize you can solve it. But if you keep thinking it's other people, then you'll never actually be able to solve this. So if you can look at your own life and independently verify this, this is wonderful. But if you can't, that's why we have questions. There's been plenty of students over the years that have asked me questions because they had difficulty seeing that it was their own mind. And I'll give you just one example of that so you can see what I'm talking about here, and it'll help you to further independently verify what I'm sharing with you. I had this one student that contacted me one time, and they said, David, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay, sure. What's going on? They said, well, I know that you teach that it's my own mind that's causing these feelings, but I'm sure it's my wife. And I said, okay, sure. What's going on? They said, well, I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. And when I came home, it was a mess. She had this craft project all over the house. And I got frustrated as soon as I walked in. How did my mind cause this? I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be angry and frustrated? And I said, no. She didn't. It was your own mind. What happened was you went to work with a craving, with an expectation that your house was going to look exactly the same when you came home as when you went to work. The only thing that's happened here is change. There's just been change. Your house looked a certain way when you went to work, and now it looks a different way. That's all that's happened. This craft project that your wife has all over the house, that's not permanent. She will put it away at some point. And the way that your house looked when you went to work, that's not permanent either. So this person's mind, just like every other unenlightened mind, was craving permanence. So if you can see this, this is a real beauty, because now the third noble truth is very empowering, because the third noble truth helps you to be able to see that you can eliminate your discontentedness by eliminating the cravings, desires, attachments. If you eliminate that longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection, where you can only be happy if you get what you want, then you can actually experience peace and joy. What you need to do is train your mind to let go. That's what that breathing mindfulness meditation was. When we were focused on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go, and you come back to the breath. It's training your mind to let go. The goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. The goal is to train your mind to be able to let go, so that in day-to-day life, you can let go. But sometimes when I share this and I let people know that you can eliminate your craving, your longing, your yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection, they think, won't my mind swing all the way to the other side where I'm dull and lethargic and lazy? Well, it might, but that's not what the Buddha is teaching you. The Buddha is teaching you to come to the middle, where you can gradually pursue your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decision making. As long as you're chasing after these things, you can only be happy when you get what you want. And then even when you get happy, that happiness fades away. You can see that in your life. Every time you've ever gotten happy, that faded away because it was based on some impermanent condition. But if you all the way over on the other side where you're dull and lethargic and lazy and you're not doing things in the world that are moving your life forward, you're not going to be peaceful and joyful there either. So that's why you need to learn how to come to the middle and make wise decisions and gradually pursue your goals and objectives without this longing, yearning. So the mind needs to learn how to let go, because when your mind lets go, that's where your peace and your joy is. Think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you broke up with. For a certain period of time, you were angry and frustrated, or lonely or bored or missing this person. But at some point, your mind let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. Or you were like, you know what? If she wants to move to a different part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. But as long as you were holding on and your mind wasn't getting what it wanted and what it expected, which was this person to be in your life, you were angry, you were frustrated, you were lonely, you were bored, you were missing this person. So the third noble truth explains to you that you can train your mind to let go. And that's what's going to eliminate your discontentedness. But the mind doesn't know how to do that. That's where the fourth noble truth comes in. The fourth noble truth explains to you the way leading to the complete elimination of your discontentedness is the Eightfold Path. This is the complete perfect plan that's going to guide you in how to actually train your mind. It's 8 individual steps that the Buddha teaches you that you gradually implement into your life to train your mind. One of the ways to think about it is it's almost like a speaker system. If you have a speaker system and you're trying to tweak these 8 individual dials in order to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers, that's what you would do. You would tweak these 8 individual dials and you'd get a better and better sound out of the speakers. Well, you can do the same thing for your mind. The Buddha figured out these 8 individual dials that you can tweak in order to be able to get a better and better performing mind. So you learn this as part of your journey on the path to enlightenment. It's a path to training your mind. It's a personal growth and development plan to be able to help you see how to train your mind. Just like we lacked wisdom of how to clean this body when we were growing up as a child, and we needed to cultivate that wisdom. And initially, we didn't want to learn it because we were too busy playing. But eventually, slowly but surely, we started taking showers by ourselves because we realized how beneficial it was. And we probably enjoy taking a shower now, right? Where we do that every day, where we clean this body. But there's this other part to this being who you are. It's not just a physical body. There's a mind here as well. And if you're not cleaning your mind and you don't have the wisdom of how to do that, you're going to be very uncomfortable. You're going to have stress and anxiety and frustration and all these other feelings. So the Eightfold Path is the complete perfect plan that helps you to have the wisdom of how to actually train your mind. So if you walked around without cleaning the body for several days, weeks, months, or years, you'd be very uncomfortable having not cleaned the body. Well, if you haven't been cleaning your mind and you didn't learn how to do that as a child growing up, well, of course you're uncomfortable. Of course you experience stress and anxiety and frustration. So there's this better way of life that the Buddha taught. And that's what he's helping you to do, is to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, to training your mind and becoming a better and better person, moving to this higher consciousness where your mind is performing more optimally. When we talk about being awake or to awaken, what it means is to cultivate wisdom. You're cultivating wisdom about the world around you, how your mind functions, how the world functions. In the unenlightened state, you'll lack wisdom. You won't understand these things. And because of that, you'll make unwise decisions and it'll produce unwholesome results for you. And typically when we experience unwholesome results in the unenlightened state, we usually say that it's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or some being like God, or some entity called the universe that is controlling what you experience. Or you might blame it on other people. But what you're experiencing in day-to-day life is coming from decisions that you make. And when you cultivate wisdom and you make different decisions, you will experience different results. That's the beauty about understanding the teachings of the Buddha, that if there's anything in your life that you don't particularly care for and you would rather that thing not occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. It's kind of like if I was on the beach and I was walking down the beach and wind was blowing in my face and I'm kicking up the sand. Well, the sand is going to blow back in my face and it's coming from me. But if I think that I'm experiencing good luck or bad luck, or it's my destiny or fate, or that it's God or some entity called the universe, or that it's other people that are causing me to experience this, then I'm just going to keep walking down the beach kicking up sand. But if I understand that what I'm experiencing is the results of my own decisions, now all I need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and I'll experience different results. I can just choose to stop kicking up sand, and now I can walk down the beach and have fresh air blowing in my face. So that's the beauty about learning these teachings, is you can completely transform your mind and completely transform your life. And what a teacher is a teacher is like a tour guide. We're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and that you need to understand. You are your own independent practitioner looking to cultivate wisdom. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee. You are somebody who's looking to cultivate wisdom as an independent practitioner. And a teacher is pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and providing you the resources to be able to do that. And that's what we do here, is I provide you books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, all the different ways of through classes, courses, retreats, even personal guidance to be able to help you see the truth and be able to train your mind to get to this point where you're experiencing complete peace and complete joy. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have questions about anything that I've been describing so far. Sometimes people have questions about the Four Noble Truths or some of the other things I've been teaching. So remember, we have the microphones for you guys. And online, you guys can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So is there anyone here online that has questions? No questions? Sometimes people come up after class. During class, they're shy, right? That's the unenlightened mind that's shy. But then after class, I get all these questions. Let me see. No questions, huh? Okay. Sure. Would you like, if you could use a microphone, that'd be great. Yeah. So here, I just turned it on for you. I'm David. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Xiaolin. I just would like to help you to help me to describe enlightenment.
Okay.
In one sentence.
Sure.
For me, so far I can get from you something about eliminating. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me? Sorry, discontentness.
Yes.
So how did you? If I want to describe, sure. What is enlightenment in one sentence? Thank you.
It's a mental state where your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. That's one sentence. It's a mental state where your mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It's a permanent mental state. Your mind will no longer experience any discontent feelings. It's physically impossible for you to experience anger, sadness, and all these other feelings. There's other qualities too, like your mind's focus. You have concentration, clarity, deep memory. You'll notice all your relationships are really blossoming. They're all harmonious. You'll notice that you don't experience tiredness and exhaustion. You'll experience sleepiness where you need some sleep, but you won't be tired or exhausted. These are just some of the benefits of having trained your mind to get to that point.
I don't know you too much. Is it too much to ask about your personal journey to Buddhism?
Sure, you're welcome to ask any questions you like.
It's just, how did you come from not being a Buddhist to a Buddhist?
I'm still not a Buddhist, okay? So one of the things the Buddha teaches you to be able to get to peace and joy is to remove any labels out of your mind. As soon as you have a label and you say, I am this, you're going to get discontent. So for example, if I thought I am American, right? And that's the identity that I'm holding in my mind. Well, if I'm at a restaurant and 2 tables over, they say all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. I've never heard this before, but maybe you might hear this, right? Where somebody would say that. You get so happy and excited because they're talking about me. But then 2 tables over, they're going to say something degrading or disparaging. And now you think they're talking about me. So if you think I am Chinese, or I am Korean, or I am Japanese, or I am Lithuanian, or I am Italian, or I am French, or I'm a Brit, I'm an Aussie. As soon as you hear something disagreeable to you, you're going to get angry and frustrated because you think that's who you are. So I don't think of myself as I am Buddhist. That's not a label that I've ever adopted in my mind. And now if someone says all Buddhists are lovely and kind and warm and gentle, okay. If they say all Buddhists are hateful and vindictive, okay, they're not talking about me because I don't have that label in my mind, right? So first of all, I just share that with you, that I don't consider what I'm doing as I am this, right? And the Buddha is the same way. He was never a Buddhist either, right? He was just an individual who cultivated the wisdom of how to train his mind and get to this peaceful and joyful mental state. So the way that I got to where I am today is that I grew up in the USA. That's how I grew up, right? And I grew up in a very hostile, very harsh, very bitter environment. And I always aspired for peace, but I didn't understand how to do that. I remember being as early as 8 years old in my room crying and upset because I was beat quite a bit when I was a kid, right? So I experienced all these difficulties and I didn't understand why the people around me didn't love me the way that I love them. So I really struggled throughout life. My mind was always discontent. And when I started spending time around Asian people, because I started spending time around Asian people when I was 17 years old, Filipinos, Indonesian, Chinese, Korean, Burmese, Vietnamese, you name it, all the different Asian cultures, I started noticing things differently that was going on in their home versus what was going on in my home. And that really intrigued me. And my friends used to tell me, you're going to really like Thailand someday if you ever go to Thailand. And I didn't actually even know what Thailand was. I thought they were mispronouncing Taiwan. I said, do you mean Taiwan? They said, no, Thailand. And I was like, oh, Thailand? Like, what is that? Right? So it wasn't more than about 6 months later after that conversation that I met someone from Thailand. And I was like, oh, wow, it's a real place because there's a person from Thailand. So I started learning about Thailand and I came here the first time in 2002. And I saw something very different than the way I grew up. I saw that Thai people were quite peaceful, quite joyful. They worked together with each other. They were very calm. And this was very different than the way I grew up. So I became very intrigued why the Thai people were so peaceful, because I was always taught that it was material possessions that was going to lead to happiness. But I already had material possessions. By the time I was 26 years old, I was driving a BMW. I had a really big salary. I had a really nice house. I had all this money in the bank. I was working in IT at the time, but I wasn't happy. But I came here to Thailand and I saw people living in wooden shacks with a huge smile on their face and they were so happy. And I was like, what is going on here? Something's wrong. So I became very intrigued and I started investigating it. And I started looking at it closer. And it took me a good long while, but eventually I came to the conclusion that it was the teachings of the Buddha that was leading to this peace and joy that they were experiencing. So I became more and more interested in investigating those teachings. And I moved here in 2015. So when I moved here in 2015, I went on this, journey of inner work and growth and development. And then by the time 2018 came around, I was ready to start understanding a way to start sharing the teachings with others, because I was already teaching in 2005 back in the USA, but it wasn't the same things that I learned here and that I understood here. Because what you learn outside of a place like Thailand, like when I was in the US, the teachings weren't there very clearly. The people didn't understand them. So it wasn't until I got here that I fully understood. I was dabbling before, but it wasn't until I got here. And then once I trained my mind and I could see the condition of my mind went from being angry and frustrated and all these other discontent feelings, and my relationship and my life was all in shambles, to having a really wonderful life and having a very peaceful mind, then I knew that, okay, this is the truth. And now let me share it with other people so they can experience it too. So it's kind of like if you discovered the cure to cancer, what would you do with it? Would you bottle it up and mass produce it and sell it and become a billionaire, a trillionaire? Or would you give it away to everybody for free? And I decided the latter, that I feel like I've discovered these teachings that lead to this peace and this joy. And I decided to give it away for free to everybody, because everybody is actually affected by this. Not everybody is affected by cancer. So I think I found something that's even better than the cure to cancer, that it's the cure to the discontent mind. And now I decide to give it away to everybody so you can experience it too. Because I'd like to see the world become a better place. But I know that that can only happen by each individual person choosing to learn and practice. And I just make myself available so that they can do that. Mm-hmm. Just be patient with it. It's a Buddhist microphone.
I love that. Thank you, David, for what you're doing. And you brought a lot of relevance to our daily life, right? I was just trying to follow up with the labeling. I've heard a lot of, he is enlightened, he's not yet enlightened. But enlightenment itself is a label too, right?
Yeah, like an enlightened person doesn't think I am enlightened, because there's no I here to be enlightened. The mind is experiencing enlightenment. That's what an enlightened being would think, not I am enlightened, because there's no I here to be enlightened. And when we say there's no I here, it's not to deny that there is a physical body and that there is a mind. It's to train the mind to not identify with this as who you are as a person. Because if you cling to, for example, if you cling to this body and you think that this is who you are, well, when you look in the mirror and you see a pimple or a wrinkle or a mole or a gray hair, or you lose your hair, you'll be shaken up by that. And that's the mind craving permanence. It's craving that permanent youthfulness. And now when you see the wrinkle, the pimple, the mole, you want to be perceived by others in a certain way, and you're not being perceived the way you want or the way you expect. So you need to get rid of all of that, and then you can be peaceful and joyful. You gain a little bit of weight, or maybe a lot of weight, and then you're like, okay, well, this is not me. It's not who I am. Of course, you still need to take care of the body. You still need to make sure it's healthy, but you're not going to be upset. You're not going to be, angry or feel diminished as a person. So that's how you can get to the peace and joy. So there's multiple things you need to learn, but this is just one of them, is eliminating the labels from the mind. Mm-hmm.
Dear Masters, I like your guidance and sharing very much. And there are always many kinds of sound in my mind, which are different to calm down. And sometimes I make it different for me to fall asleep. It is also the reason why I can get in touch with Buddhism. I have participated in Buddhist cultivated before, but back to life, these noises began again. What should I do? Thank you.
The first thing you need to do is learn the Eightfold Path, because that's the complete perfect plan that's going to train your mind to be able to change all of that. Because the only thing that the mind is struggling with is that there's these pollutions that the Buddha discovered, And when you understand what those pollutions are and you understand the solutions and you get them out of the mind, you'll see your mind actually perform quite optimally. So while we say attain enlightenment, one way to think about it is that your mind's already enlightened, that you just have these pollutions that are in the way that are hindering you from experiencing it. And you just got to get those pollutions out of the way. And then the qualities of enlightenment can shine through more and more. So if you start with this first book, which you can download from our website for free, you can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing costs so that way we can go purchase more books, or you can order it on Amazon. And this is the best place to get started. And then each Sunday I go chapter by chapter by chapter, helping students to be able to understand it. And then I have courses and retreats that are more in depth, that are like 5 days at a time, or you can just learn little by little each Sunday. It's really up to you. But that would be the best thing to do, is to start with gaining the wisdom that you need of how to train your mind. Because you know how to clean the body, but you haven't learned how to clean the mind yet. And that's what the Buddha is going to teach you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Mm-hmm. They're very Buddhist. If you press the button, you'll see the lights come on.
No?
There
Yeah,
it
that's
goes.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, David. I have a question about, I heard Buddhists don't kill, as in animals, etc. But then I've also heard, or I know that some Buddhists eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's a confusion.
Sure. So you should never think that everybody's going to do things a certain way, right? Because that's permanence. We don't live in that world. So there's these teachings of the Buddha that he shared 2,500 years ago. And then there's what people currently understand and what people currently practice. And that's oftentimes very different, right? So the Buddha's teachings, in his teachings, he explains that it's really unwise to change his teachings. And he explains to people the harm that it's going to cause to them and to other people if you change his teachings. But he knew people would change his teachings because of impermanence. It's going to happen. 2,500 years later, there's not very many people who fully understand his teachings because they're so far away from what he actually taught. So there's people today where Thailand is, yes, considered a Buddhist country, but not everybody's practicing his teachings closely because of impermanence, because of constant change. And one of the big misunderstandings that people have in Thailand is about meat and eating meat. Whether you choose to eat meat or not is a choice for you to make. There's no rules or commandments here. There's nobody that's going to force you to do things any particular way. It's your choices that lead to any result that you experience. But you will experience the results of your decisions. This is called karma, or some people call it karma. Karma is the Sanskrit word, where in the Pali language, which is the original source teachings of the Buddha, the word karma is being used. This isn't anything mystical or magical. It's not about blame or fault, or there's no being who's overseeing this. Well, it is the results of your decisions. That any decision you make, it's going to produce either wholesome karma, wholesome results, or unwholesome karma, unwholesome results. And it's based on your decision being either wise or unwise. So the Buddha taught that it's unwise to kill, because when you kill, you're harming this other being, and now harm's going to come to you. So oftentimes people think that it's only the individual who killed the animal that's going to experience the harm, and that's not true. It's kind of like if I stole the car and I gave it to you, if you're out driving the car, you're going to get in trouble, right? So if I killed an animal and you eat it, you're still actually experiencing harm. This is why you get sickness and illness in the body more so with eating meat than you do with plants, right? So you're going to experience not only that, but there's certain drugs and hormones and toxins that are in the meat that you're experiencing. So here in Thailand, they actually have a high amount of stomach cancer because they eat so much meat here. And this is the results of their decisions. And they don't understand that that's one of the big misunderstandings they have about the teachings. Now, not everybody, because there's actually obviously quite a few people here that eat plant-based food. But whether or not you eat plant-based food, it's a choice for you to make. There's nobody that's going to force that upon you, but you need to be able to cultivate the wisdom to see the truth for yourself, because there's plenty of ways for you to be able to see this truth in research and things like that. But you can also see it on your own personal level, that if you start eating plants and you get away from meat, you'll see the condition of your mind improves and you'll see your body too. So I switched about 8 years ago, and I used to get all kinds of stomach issues like, diarrhea and stomach viruses and food poisoning, especially eating street food, because that stuff's really good, right? Well, now I don't eat the meat because the meat has an enormous amount of bacteria in it. I don't eat that stuff. So I don't experience any of that stuff. And my mind's clear. My mind is, peaceful. So you can see through your own direct experience, through practicing the teachings, that this is the truth, that it's not wise to eat meat. But there's going to be some people who might need to eat a little bit of meat, but they're not doing it based on their central desire in their tongue. They're doing it maybe because the body just needs it. But you've got to be sure that that's the case, because your mind can kind of trick yourself, right? So I went away from meat for like 5 years, and I didn't eat any meat whatsoever, and I still don't eat any meat, and I don't eat any animal products, right? For about 5 years. And I was taking supplements at a certain point to be able to have things like B12, because that's not found in plants very often. But then my B12 became so depleted and I was experiencing symptoms, I started needing to eat like a little bit of eggs in order to be able to get B12 into the system. So this is part of your loving kindness and compassion, because you need to have loving kindness and compassion for all beings. And the first being you need to have loving kindness and compassion for is yourself, right? If you don't have loving kindness and compassion for this being, you can't have it for other beings. So I know that when I eat eggs, I'm only doing so out of loving kindness and compassion for this being, because I went away from it for about 5 years. But I only went back to it not because the tongue was craving it, but because the body actually needed it in order to be able to survive. So you need to be able to look at these things closely. And once you understand what the pollution of the mind is and what the Buddha is teaching you to eliminate, you see that implementing these precepts is not black and white. It's not never kill. That's not what the Buddha taught. Because if someone broke into your house and you're sleeping at 2 a.m. in the morning and they're coming at you with a knife and a gun, well, what are you going to do? Just stand there and let them stab you? That wouldn't be loving kindness and compassion for this being, who you are, right? So if you needed to defend yourself, that harm that that person is experiencing, they caused that, right? It's their decisions, because they broke into your house at 2 a.m. in the morning. They come in through the window. They come at you with a knife. They're going to experience unwholesome karma, right? So you're not going out actively trying to kill somebody. That's a whole nother topic. And that's what is actually, that comes from what's called craving, anger, and ignorance. But if you needed to harm this individual, even if you needed to kill them, you're not going to experience unwholesome karma in that situation. You're experiencing wholesome karma, because if you would have just sat there and let them stab you with a knife, you would have died. That's unwholesome karma. But if you practice loving kindness and compassion for this being, and let's just say you had to kill that person and there was no other option for you, well, you just experienced wholesome karma, right? So this is where these teachings of the Buddha, they're not black and white. He didn't teach never kill, and he didn't teach, never do this, never do that. That's not what he's teaching you. He's showing you these natural laws, and the variables in any given situation is going to be different. And you need to be able to move to this higher consciousness and process this and figure out what's the best decision here for me. And nobody can give you like a decision tree that says, if this happens, do that. And if this happens, do that, because that would be a permanent answer for every decision, where you've got to move to this higher consciousness, think through the variables, and decide what will be wise or unwise in any given situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, please. Calm down. It's okay. So the question for those of you guys online is, she's saying, are you telling me that the supplement didn't work and you need to go back to eggs? Okay. So remember, the world is impermanent, right? That means there's not any permanence in the material world. So if someone takes a B12 supplement, for some people, it's going to work. And for other people, it's not. That's called impermanence, right? So in my situation, my B12 had gotten really depleted because I was also donating blood as well. So that contributed to the depletion of B12. And even when I was taking the supplement, because the body doesn't absorb B12 very well through supplements, it was very hard to be able to get the body back up there, even though I was taking the supplements. So I went to eggs, and now I've been eating those for about, I think, 1.5 to 2 years in order to be able to get the B12 back up. So for some people, they'll be able to take supplements and they'll be just fine. For some people, they won't need any supplements at all. I have one student, she's been vegan ever since she's inside the womb. Her mom was vegan. So her body is completely adapted. Like, she doesn't need any supplements whatsoever. And she can eat plant-based food extensively, but she's never even had a piece of meat before, as far as I know. So everybody's a little bit different, but what you're looking at is not to follow a rule or a commandment. That's not what the Buddha is teaching you. He's helping you to be able to see this cause and effect relationship between the choices that you make and the results that you experience. So if you're making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, this is a high level way to talk about these pollutions. It's going to produce unwholesome results. But if you're making decisions through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, it's going to produce wholesome results. So each situation is a bit different. So that's why going away from meat and animal products for 5 years, I know that there's no central desire. There's no craving for animal products. I'm only eating eggs out of loving kindness for this being and out of wisdom.
I was trying to point out that the supplement is not
Yeah.
regular, not regular,
It's not working.
not regular. What food made it? Check who made it.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
more thing
Are you asking questions or are you making statements? It's not good to make statements when you come to the temple because everyone's not here to learn with you. Yeah. 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 So, well, everybody's going to be different, right? There's different brands of B12. Everybody's body's going to respond differently. So you need to be able to practice on your own. And I'm here to give you the guidance of how to do that. If somebody asks me, hey, David, should I move to a plant-based food supply? I'd say, well, it'd be very helpful for you, but whether you do that or not is up to you. And if they say, should I take supplements? Well, it's up to you. You might choose to do that and see how that works for you. Right? So my experience isn't going to be the same for everybody. And that's impermanence. But what you would like to do is get rid of your craving, your anger, and your ignorance, where whatever decisions you're making, it's not based in craving. And that's where you can then experience the wholesome results. Mm-hmm. Jack?
Yeah, just a bit of a clarification for what you said a bit earlier about the wholesome karma you having to defend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not too sure about Thailand, but Vietnam, Philippines, if you were to do that, you would be arrested and put into prison almost for sure because you actually defended yourself.
No, that's not true.
I do know that is in Vietnam and the Philippines. I'm not too sure about Thailand, but
Yeah, if you're defending yourself, if someone arrests you, then I don't know of any country that would do that. But if there is a place out there that's like that, well, I would suggest not living in that place because the human laws are imperfect. The human laws are not the natural law of karma fully. So human laws are created and administered by people, by human beings. So they're going to be created and enforced unequally, right? So there can be governments, like some places in the world, it's illegal to have a same gender relationship, right? There's nothing harmful about a same gender relationship, but in some countries you would be arrested and maybe even killed for having a same gender relationship. My advice to that person would be, if you can, get out of that country. If you're a person who or has same gender relationships, get out of that country, right? Because those people are choosing to do something hateful based on their craving. They have a craving for everybody to have sex with the opposite gender. That's permanence. We don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world. Some people are going to have sex with the same gender. Some people are going to have sex with the opposite gender. But in this country, if they're arresting people and killing them for having sex with the same gender, that's because their mind's having craving, anger, and ignorance. So if there's some place that is going to arrest you for killing someone in self-defense, then I would say leave that place. And Thailand is not that place. So you mentioned Thailand. Thailand, you would not be arrested for defending yourself. If somebody was coming at you to kill you and you needed to take that person's life in order to defend yourself, you would not be arrested. And I suspect Vietnam's the same. I don't know of any country that is like that, but there could be like that out there. And if that's the case, that's the human law. We're talking about the natural law of karma. And it's your choices that are leading to any result. So if you choose to live in a country that is practicing in that way, that's why you're experiencing that. That's the choice that you're making.
Okay, I've heard, I'm not sure about Thailand, that you would allow to defend yourself, but the moment you actually cause harm to the other person, you can actually be answerable to that.
Of course, even in the US, if you killed someone, you're going to need to talk to the police. You might even end up going to court, but you can prove that you did this out of self-defense. Mm-hmm. You're going to need to talk to people. You're not going to kill someone and everyone's like, oh, okay, no worries. Go have lunch, right? You're going to need to talk to some people and let them know what happened here and what transpired. And then the evidence is going to show what you actually did. I was backed up against the corner. I would have liked to have left the house and got out, but I couldn't. The only thing I could have done was take their life. And I would have been better off if they would have just not broken into my house. But that was their choice. Right? Yes, ma'am. Probably just need to turn it on. It probably isn't turned on. Mm-hmm. There's a gray little button that if you press that, you'll see the lights come on.
Oh, hello, David.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Sometimes I think I understand but it's too hard to do. What should I do? For example, I know what the world has been changing all the time, but I can't stay calm when accidents happen. For example, if I lose my important bracelet, I will always be unhappy. I think I know the reason, but it's hard to do.
Yeah. The only reason why it's hard for someone is because the mind lacks wisdom. The more that you understand the teachings and you apply them in your day-to-day life, it's not hard anymore. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're functioning with ease. There's no difficulties or struggles. So what you should do is learn the teachings. You need to start there. You know, sometimes when people come here, they ask me questions. They tell me about all the problems that they have in their life, and they say, how do I solve it? Right? As if there's a 3-minute answer, as if there's a 5-minute answer. And I know that that might not be what you're asking for, but understand that the solutions to all the problems you experience, it's going to take multiple years for you to cultivate the wisdom and for you to implement the training to be able to fix it. But it's a permanent solution. So you need to be able to start with this first book. That's what I suggest you do, is get it for free. Like I mentioned to you, either online, take it and go print it, get printed versions here, or get it on Amazon. You need to start your learning and start your journey to gradually learn the teachings and bring them into your life. And that's what's going to create all the change for you. There's no 3-minute answer or 5-minute answer to solving the difficulties in your life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I think that might be everything. You have a question, ma'am? Yeah, please.
Hey, David.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for so far everything you answered.
Mm-hmm.
Just a question from my side. Is it the idea to attain enlightenment is also some sort of craving or desire?
It's not the object itself that determines whether it's a craving, desire, or attachment. It's how your mind relates to that, right? So someone could crave enlightenment, but they'll never get to it through craving it. But also if you were on the other side where you weren't doing anything to improve your life, you're not going to get to it there either. So like, for example, if you had a bottle of water in your car and you were on your way to a hiking trail and you parked your car and you were 30 minutes down the trail and you're like, oh my gosh, my water. And you're so been out of shape and you just run back to your car and get your water. It's like, water, right? This person is attached to their water. They can only be happy if they have their water. When their water is not there, their mind is all shaken up. Because there could be a second person out on the trail that's like, I forgot my water. Let me make my way back to the car and get my water. And now they calmly make their way back to their car. So the object is the same. It's the water. The difference is what's going on in the mind. The first example is the person's longing, yearning, and craving for it to be permanent. And that's why their mind's shaken up when they didn't get what they wanted. But the second person, their mind didn't have that. So just the fact that somebody's interested in getting to enlightenment and attaining enlightenment isn't what determines whether it's a craving, desire, attachment. It's how the mind's pursuing it. So if you're longing, yearning, and chasing after it, yeah, it's a craving, and you won't get to it that way. You need to pull that back and gradually pursue it through wise decision making. And now you can actually attain it.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Yes, sir. You have a question?
Hey, David. In some situation, I always want to like control some people, like in some intimate relationship or with my parents. And when they suggest something like I don't like, I try to convince them to not do that. Sometimes it make them very angry about that and made me very me not very happy. So I want to ask if anything can help me to like do better.
Yeah. So when you're trying to convince your parents to do something, that's your craving, desire, attachment. And now you're pressuring them and putting expectations on them. And you can only be happy if they do it your way. This is the mind's ego. You're giving them what's called unsolicited guidance. Because of your craving, you're trying to pressure them to do things your way. And your ego thinks my way is the right way and their way is the wrong way. This is the craving for permanence, wanting everybody to do things a certain way. That's what's leading to your unhappiness in your mind. And your parents, they're experiencing you putting expectations on them and they don't like that either. So what you need to do is you need to pull back and understand this is your life and you need to work on your life and train your mind. If you're going to help your parents with things that you think that they need help with, you can do that, but you need to do it without craving, desire, attachment. You need to become skillful in how to be able to help them. So I can give you multiple examples of how to do that. But the first thing is you need to train your mind first to be able to not have craving, desire, attachment, and understand that there's more than one way to do things in the world. It's not your way is the right way and everyone else's is the wrong way, but that's what your ego will tell you. And the mind thinks there's just one right way to do things. Where in reality, if you have 10 enlightened beings looking at a certain challenge, they could come up with 10 different answers. Getting to enlightenment isn't that everyone's doing things exactly the same way. It's that, yeah, all these people, their mind's not discontent, but the way that they approach a certain challenge is going to be different from person to person to person because they'll have different solutions and different ideas, but they're all going to work for an enlightened being. So you need to be able to pull your craving back and learn that there's ways to help your parents, but you need to help yourself first. You can't help other people until you've actually trained your own mind. That's why the Buddha got to enlightenment first. He spent 6 years getting to enlightenment first. Then he helped other people. You can't help other people if you haven't gotten to enlightenment yet. Because think about it. Would you go to somebody who's never driven a car to learn how to drive a car? No. Probably not, right? You'd like to have someone that's driven a car and been teaching for a while, right? So in order for you to be able to help your parents, you're going to need to train your mind first. So I would encourage you to focus on that. And then after you focus on that, there's ways for you to help your parents, but it's going to be based on the wisdom that you cultivate of how to train your own mind. Then you'll be able to help your parents. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question here is, should you help only if they ask you to help or should it be your own decision? So if someone's asking you for help, you could help them if that's what you would like to do. And there's an open door there and they're open to your advice. But there are ways to skillfully help people, like our parents specifically, because sometimes children, they learn things about the world that their parents don't understand. And there's ways for us to help them, but you need to do it humbly and respectfully without craving, desire, attachment. Because if you rush in and try to control your parents, it's not going to work. So for example, we were trying to help my wife's mom. She's dead now, but not my wife, but her mom. We were trying to help her at one point because she lived in Eastern Thailand where medical care was not so easy and access to care was not easy. And we were suggesting to her that she comes to Chiang Mai, and she lives in Chiang Mai. And she was at our house and she was sitting on the sofa, and she has diabetes and she had all these other issues. So we sat on the floor and she sat on the couch, and we talked to her and we helped her to be able to see that she was having health issues. She was getting older. She needed more medical care. And every time she had a problem, it would usually get really, 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 really bad. And then we would have to go to Eastern Thailand. We'd have to pick her up and we'd bring her all the way to Chiang Mai to be able to get the care that she needed. And we were explaining to her how this was going to, cause difficulties in her life. And we were explaining that to her while sitting on the floor and helping her to be able to see something that she couldn't see herself. But ultimately, at the end of the conversation, she decided that she was going to go back to Eastern Thailand and she wasn't interested in living in Chiang Mai. And we just accepted what it was that she decided, and that was her decision. So you can help your parents, but you need to do it skillfully where that they're open, because we asked her, Mom, can we talk to you? We would like to talk to you about something. And she said, yes. And we said, okay, you sit here. We're going to sit on the floor. And then we politely and respectfully talk to her without craving, without trying to pressure her, just helping her to be able to see something that we were seeing. But then ultimately, whatever decision she made, we just accepted that decision because that was her decision. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's everything. So what I'll do then is end by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings. As you can see, the teachings are 100% true because I talked about impermanence, and you see we had a certain number of people here in the class at the beginning, and now there's a different number, right? That's impermanence, just like the Buddha taught, right? But if I was holding on and I wanted everybody to be here and everybody had to stay, and if you don't stay, I'm going to be upset, right? But when you understand impermanence, people can come and go, and you can be completely peaceful and completely joyful, right? And you can only help people if they're interested in that help. So I'm pleased to be able to share these teachings with you guys. And if you'd like to learn more, you're more than welcome to do that. You'll find our courses and stuff over there on the bulletin board. You'll find it on our website as well. You can come talk to me and I'll get you plugged into the resources that you need. The very next event that we have here is at 6 p.m. on Friday. We have a social event where we play games, and we have a little party here every Friday at 6 p.m. It's called Temple Fun Night. On Saturday, we have our Pali Canon and English study group. On Sunday, we have our group learning program. On Sunday evening, we have a meditation. Next week, we have a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course. So we have lots of different opportunities for you guys to really get in depth with it. Today, we just kind of scratched the surface a little bit. But if you really like to learn in depth, there's courses and ways for you guys to be able to do that. So have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps I'll see you next time, okay? Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Jai Jian. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.